Go and try your luck, test me in again, we let it rain. Please don't start us up, got that black and white, that yin and yang. Mr. Officer, please don't search us, we don't got a thing. Tell her park it up, then that be poking out them jeans. Up is sparking up, like the fireworks, I keep the flame. Heard you barking up, this the wrong tree, I got the strings. Yeah, I'm charging up, they can keep up, got them looking drained. Now they walking up, trying to put the face to the name. Pull up and I and I'm swerving. If a try to holler, she gon' curve him. We came from under rugs like a Persian. We been staying in our lane, ain't no merging. Wrap it like I'm turban. Yeah, these all square like Irvin. Yeah, we grew up in the hood, no Suburbans. If I say I need my money, then it's urgent. Yeah, they want me to quit. Yeah, they want shit. But as long as I'm alive, we gon' keep on making hits. While they steady shooting bricks, man, it's lit. Yeah, it's lit. Me and Dale back to back, and yeah, I'm dishing the assist. Yeah, they talk a lot. lot of, but we really with the lame. Always gonna be reaching for they hit, smoking like a clip. They can never catch me slipping. Every time your girl around, she be watch the way I'm dripping. Try your luck, test me in again, we let it rain. Got that black and white, they yin and yang. Mr. Officer, please don't search us, we don't got a thing. Tell her park it up, then that be poking out them jeans. I'm just walking up, like the fireworks, I keep the flame. Walking up, it's the wrong tree, I got the strings. Yeah, I'm charging up, they can keep up, got them looking drained. Now they walking up, trying to put the face to the name. I'm in flex mode with the best, though. That's a major key, that's a chess move. I'm your favorite G, I think it's best, yo. Stop with all the grilling, I'm on jet fuel. Taking off, clear the runway, now they cannot clip my wings. Yeah, they suck, they ain't homie, they ain't even on the scene. Playing smart, they don't know me, they just know what they see. What it costs to get fleet, but this style ain't free. This that swag, just that splash, won't remove that. Do the dash, keep a stat, just in case they tryna flash. Never lie, we don't slack, tell her I was running back. I don't brag, I'm relaxed, I'm not into all of that, yeah. It's really just the fam and my dogs, I just gotta make a call. I ain't into all that chatting, not at all. Yeah, put that on the squad, we been out here going hard. We on deck, please don't make them. Try your luck, test me in again, we let it rain. Please don't start us up, got that black and white, they yin.
So folks, we're gonna get started in 20 seconds. Need to get your questions up in the comments. You're ready. Got a great show today. Every day. 3, 2, 1. Good morning. This is Jeremiah's JMan Monero with JMan Speaks, coming to you live. That's right, live and direct from our world headquarters in Rochester, New York. This is 18 Fridays. Ask the experts anything meaningful. And I am super excited today to bring up Irina Dupree. Am I saying that correctly? Dupree. Oh, wait, hold on. I muted you. Did I say it right?
Yep.
All right.
How are you doing today?
You have the little E on your name. Let me bring your name up here so everybody can see that.
Dupree.
Dupree. Is that like a little part of
French?
Okay. See, je m'appelle. I took 4 years of French, and I could barely, je m'appelle.
I can barely pronounce my name.
Yeah, I can pronounce your name. So welcome to 18 Friday. This is for those of you who are tuning in for the first time. This is very much an informal discussion of Ask the Experts Anything Meaningful. So Irina's our insurance expert today. And we'd like to start with something just in case nobody hops on and asks us any questions. It looks like we do have some people on live with us now, so feel free to ask us any questions in regards to insurance or real estate or social media or video or your Instagram account getting lost, because there's a funny story in regards to that.
Do we need to talk about that? We can start with how is your Instagram get lost and you cannot recover.
So let's introduce yourself, where you're from, company you represent. Let's get started with that. So my name is
Irina Dupree. I work for Liberty Mutual. I've been with them for about 4 years. A lot of people don't know Liberty does have a brokerage site where we have about 12 different companies where we can shop around with. I do work with a lot of our real estate agents, mortgage companies, because having that coverage prior your closing date, and when I say prior, it's like 2 or 3 weeks prior, no day prior, is really important. So that's a little bit about we do auto insurance, life insurance, obviously homeowners insurance, flood insurance, pet insurance.
So can you, from where you are in New Jersey, what's your area that you service? Can you go anywhere pretty much? Or
good question. I'm licensed in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
Okay, well that's a pretty good.
3 states what is close to me. I definitely cannot write a policy in Florida. I wish I could.
Yeah, but I would imagine even if like we have clients, if somebody has a good experience with you here in New York, New Jersey, or Pennsylvania, there's probably a counterpart within Liberty that you could refer them to in Florida.
Definitely.
that,
Yeah,
right?
definitely. There's if somebody need a policy, let's say in Texas, and I do have a lot of clients in Texas who, let's say, actually was living in New York and they moved to Texas. I just found them someone who I know, trust in the Liberty side, who can take care exactly the same care of them that I was doing here.
Okay. Well, since you said, since you started out with like making sure you're getting your policy prior to closing or before they want to schedule the closing, I thought what might be good for us because, primarily our audience is real estate agents. I just shared the live feed onto my personal page, which has, everybody else. There's real estate agents on there as well, mortgage people. Let's talk about deal killers in real estate. So if you're watching this, you're a real estate agent, you're a mortgage person, you're an attorney, you're a paralegal, you're an everyday homeowner or seller or consumer. Let's talk about that. Deal killers in real estate. Give me like a recent transaction that maybe fell apart because of insurance or something to do with insurance.
All right, well, let me ask you a question. As you being a real estate agent, a really successful real estate agent, how soon you address insurance part? Let's say you put the offer in the house, offer got accepted. How soon you transition to that?
Well, that's a great question. What we like to do is because, we want to exceed expectations with every client that we work with. So we try to create realistic expectations of what might happen. And so usually right after the home inspection, they've done their loan, they've done their loan application. We would send something out and say, hey, make sure to get quotes on your homeowner's insurance now. And it's like a little one sheet that we created, and make sure you're comparing apples to apples, right? Because sometimes somebody could say, hey, I got a great deal on my homeowner's insurance from this person to that one. Well, they didn't cover you the way the other one did. It's not the same thing. So usually for us, it's 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks in, because we don't want people scrambling at the last minute. Like, I need a binder. I can't believe this insurance person didn't get it to me in 2 hours.
And
You know?
I honestly try to do that. That might turn out time with the mortgage people is about 30 minutes, and they know that I will drop everything for them.
Okay. Well, don't put that out there. Okay, we'll say, she'll do it within 24 hours. So when you do it in 30 minutes, they're like, what? Oh my gosh, Irina, she's so fast.
Well, I try to drop like real estate agent or mortgage companies. Yeah, I would drop a lot of things just to make that a priority. Just speaking about insurance, and the deal breaker is definitely really important to get that insurance in place, at least get idea what this insurance would run as soon as possible when you obviously down the line from where people are definitely moving forward with their purchase. I had a case where everything was put in place, and just insurance and flood insurance was too much for people. So,
We actually have our first question, not from us.
oh,
So Jeanette McCreary, thank you for this. So she says, first time home buyer needs to know what do first time buyers need to know when it comes to home insurance? Man, what a great question.
that is a great question. And so let's finish a deal break and we answer that question.
Okay.
So when it comes to the deal breaker, also there's some houses where it's hard to get insured. House down the shore, house with a flat roof. So it's really important, just look around just to make sure you find this carrier, because we have solution for everything. It just matter of taking your time. You just find right coverage, right premium,
Mm-hmm.
and right carrier what is actually insured that
So
house.
let's talk about that for a second, because like as a listing agent, right? If you're savvy, you should know, like, man, that roof looks rough. Like, it. You're in real estate. Like, if the shingles are curled, you're like, man, this might be an issue when somebody goes to get insurance, and maybe the seller doesn't want to replace the roof. We're in a seller's market. Let's face it, the sellers don't need to or want to do a lot of work to put their house on the market. How can you get ahead of that? you know, would you have an insurance person kind of do a drive-by or take a picture and send it to the insurance person? Say, hey, do you think this will pass? Who's the guy that comes out, the adjuster, or sometimes they come out and they check out
And
the house?
most of the houses get inspected after insurance put in place.
Okay.
So you even wouldn't know because it's outside, but there's will adjuster or will come if you liberty to pick and choose who they inspect the houses. There's some carriers what inspect every single house they have to put insurance on, just to make sure one house not completely falling apart. And there is a walls missing when you insure your house for $1 million.
Right, right.
You know, I think it's a good question because it's just conversation. You know, talk to your insurance agent and describe really what house is look like. If it has a flaws and people try to fix them, because there's a way to get around it. I can just say, okay, house will be under construction for next 6 months. Buyer will move in, fix it. They will come inspect it. You know, it's just not going to. They're not going to take my word for it. If house under construction, but there's so many people buying a house and they're planning to put some work to it. It doesn't mean it's not insurable or there is problem with get insurance on it. It's just right communication pretty much with your agent. And a lot of time buyers like, yeah, it's a great house. And then you look at it, you Google it, you're like, oh God, yeah. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it looks like it's ready to, like, all it needs is a match, this house. Okay, but I understand, like, there wasn't a lot of inventory and you had to buy something. But we'll get back to the deal because there's so many deal killers we can talk about. I think I have like 5 or 6 in my head right now. But let's go back to the first time home buyer question, and I'll bring it back up from Jeanette, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, Jeanette McCreary. What should they know as a first time home buyer?
You know what? When people buy a house for the first time, their head is in so many different directions. Once they have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
I'm sure you've been in that position. I've been in that position. You pretty much need that person. And a lot of times, I met really great realtors and mortgage people who would hold your hand and explain really clearly through the mortgage application and how you put the offer in. And of course, next step is comes to insurance. And you pretty much need to know really what are you getting. I'm getting insurance, but what is that insurance going to cover? Is it going to cover my whole entire house, or is it going to cover one wall? So knowing what is covered under the insurance is really, really important. And also knowing what is not covered is really important. For example, flood damage is usually you have to read your policy to understand what is covered, this is not. There's a simple rule. If it's coming from above, like a broken pipe, it's probably covered. If it's coming from a ground, like a river overflowed, you need a flood insurance. Like collectibles, purse, say if you have something important in your house, what is really expensive item, like a Rolex watch, have a special right on your policy because probably would not be covered by your you know, in case of it's not going to be covered to the full potential.
So if I do have an actual Rolex watch that I bought and I have a receipt and it wasn't on Times Square from the guys that go like this and say, hey, I got these watches. What should I? Because you know there's a lot of those out there, guys. We know when you're wearing them. Let's face it, it's a TikTok Rolex.
All right, how many did you buy from him?
Oh, I bought 4 or 5, but I buy the good ones. I buy the good ones that you can see that it has the sweeping second hand. That's the key, folks. If your Rolex is TikToking, not a Rolex. But should they get a receipt? Like if I have expensive items or wife has an expensive engagement ring, stuff like that. How do you separately get that? Do you get receipts? Do you take pictures? I'm a big video guy, so I want to suggest like video everything. But what are your suggestions just to be sure that it's covered, and then go to the agent and say, here's my inventory of additional things that I think, or I want to be sure are covered?
I think most of our insurance company will take either bill of sale or appraisal. If it's really old item and you don't have that bill of sale, you bought it 30 years ago, or something get passed down to you from your grandfather, really know it has a value, but you don't have a bill of sale anymore, take to the jurors, get the appraisal, keep it in a safe place, and send it to your insurance carrier, and they will have that on file for you as well. Pictures and videos definitely help, but we can come back because I can talk for forever how to keep an inventory on in case it's happening. That's what will be my probably next subject. When people first buy a home, they want a cheapest price ever.
Right.
I will say shop around, or find someone who will shop around for you. Make sure a house is covered up to what is need to be covered. Most of insurance companies estimate that by if house burned to the ground, what is cost to replace. So it's automatically estimated based on the condition of the house, and don't really go for really low coverage, because let's face it, if something happened, you want it to be protected.
Yeah, so let's talk about replacement value versus market value, because we talk about that with our clients very often. Because let's say, like, I live in the city of Rochester. I have a historic home. Before that, 2 houses ago, I had a 3,700 square foot Queen Anne Victorian with the hardwood. Everything was wood everywhere, which the market value was like 170,000. But to rebuild this house with today's construction, the way it would have been 350,000, to replace the hardwoods and that much square footage and to redo everything. Um, let's talk about that, because I think so many people, when you're buying a home, right? There's only so much money. You've saved your whole life for this. It's one of the biggest investments you're ever going to make. We understand that you need money for closing costs. You're going to need money for your furniture and everything else that you're going to buy. But saving a couple $100 on your home insurance, or $100 or $50, and not making sure you're covered, could be catastrophic to your life if something does happen, right?
Well,
There's
yeah, first of all, you was right. You saved all your life for that house. Why would you protect that properly? And I always say insurance is good as long as it covers you in a case of accident or something happen and there's a fire in the house, and you have enough money to rebuild half of your house. It doesn't going to do you any good.
right.
Yeah, so with that said, you're right, especially with the older houses, it takes way more to rebuild compared to the newer construction. That's why insurance on a newer home is way less than you buy an older house.
Right.
And that's sometimes if first-time buyers should take for consideration. Okay, you live in the area with probably no new houses. It's really less, not many around me too, unless you go out of the area. But newer house is usually definitely more affordable when it comes to insurance compared to, something was built in 1820s and have differently more features what needed to get attention.
Right. So it's a good point. So new houses versus old houses. What are some other ways the first time home buyer can save, right? Like, let's say I call you up, ring, 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 Irina, hey, I'm buying a house. I have 2 cars. My wife, my girlfriend and I were getting married, so we're buying our first home together. What are some ways that we can save money as a whole? We have 2 cars and a home that we're going to need to insure. I'm giving you a softball here. What? How can we save money?
Well, Well, first of all, there's a lot of way to save money. Multi-policy discounts is absolutely great, and it's bigger than people would expect. An average policy, like homeowners policy, it starts from $200-300 a year. Multi-policy discount alone, if you move your home and auto together. There's also additional discount if you get umbrella or life insurance. So it's different way to make sure that policy is affordable and overall you saving money.
Right.
And it's listen, at the end of the day, it have to make sense to you. Right. If you pay $3,000 on your car insurance and well, I don't know.
Say you had some tickets.
No, that's it. Is that the Irish like in New York? I don't know. You live a little bit outside of New York.
No, I'm a good driver.
Are you sure about that?
No.
I seen you being on Instagram live when you're driving. So
no, I don't agree. So, if it's $3,000, well, yeah.
I'm just giving an example. If you have a $3,000 policy with auto and you have, let's say, $1,500 with home, you will be saving about $200 on home and about $300-400 in the car insurance. So combined, its average savings is pretty impactful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, another thing, if people buy a home and they have a family and they definitely feel they have a kids, I always tell them get a small life insurance, because you just don't want to make sure one of your spouses are protected. I just want to, and you do have a good discount on that as well.
Well, and it's we talked about this with the life insurance mercenary a few weeks ago, where we were talking about it's not just the insurance, but then also just you're buying a home, you're acquiring assets. Now you have like an estate you should worry about. And there should be, even if you're 20 years old or 30 or 40 and you think I'm going to live forever, making sure that your estate planning is in place so that if something did happen, worst case scenario, you'd be your people would be taken care of, whoever you care most about. But we have a random question from Becca Matalunas. I'm sorry, Becca. I don't know how to say your last name that great. Matalunas. Anyways, I'm going to bring it up here. So this is not insurance related, but Irina, you do some video. You're on video now, so maybe you could chime in on this as well. But not insurance related. What is your best piece of advice or tips for someone who has never done a live video before? Man, thank you, Becca. That's a great question, because there's a lot of people that are watching right now, and there's a lot of people that participate in any kind of Zoom that I do that don't want to turn their cameras on. And I'll start with you, Irina. You're on, you're live, you're talking, you got confidence.
Honestly, just be yourself. Just be yourself. I think when people sit there and just talking, let's talk insurance. Today we're going to present talking. After 5 seconds, it gets boring. Be real.
Right.
That's me.
So when did you do your first live stream? Like how long?
During COVID. I never had an Instagram before. No, I had the Instagram. I had my private Instagram. But when COVID started, we all was all my businesses was closed. I had to do something, so I decided, you know what? I'm going to connect with every real estate agent in the area and every mortgage people, and I'm going to be best friends with them. And that's how slowly I kind of grew my network until my Instagram disappeared. But now I'm trying. I'm going to try again, but it's getting slowly back where it was before. And that's how you and I and Chris connected over Instagram.
Wind Up Wednesdays, a great program that did Nara put it on, or Joe Rivera and Chris initially started it, and then Darwin Darwin came in and kind of helped is helping to co-host that. But it was I don't know who started if it was a NARAP related thing, but it was great because it was like, okay, every Wednesday you could depend on somebody coming on and talking about something of value. But it was such a great way to connect and network with people because everybody was
Drinking wine.
got crazy and drinking. It's called Wind Up Wednesday. So like, I don't want to be on video. Okay, I'm ready. Let's do it. You guys ready? I could tell you that I think I first started. I've been doing live video for a long time. Some might call me the live video champion of the world, but I started somewhere, and it started with me just saying, I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to hit a button, and if it's a difference between my kids getting what they want in life and me doing a live video, I'm going to do the live video, right? Because I think when you come down to like what matters most, what motivates you, if it's family, if you have no family, then I don't know how you were created, but whatever motivates you most, make that your inspiration or your why and why you should do something. Not because you'll make money, not because it's the cool thing to do. People get to like, know, and trust you like this, face to face, right? I'm connecting with you right now, face to face, virtually. And when Irina and I meet someday at an event somewhere, we'll feel like we've known each other for years because we talk via video. So I think if you want one of the greatest tips I've ever done for my business in general has been video, because I see people and they're like, "Hey," I'm like, "Hey, I don't know you, right? I'm not sure who," but it's like that's how you build your brand. Your brand is you. So thank you for that, Becca.
Well, I just wanted to say one thing. It's always uncomfortable when if you never done video before, if you never been live before, it's really uncomfortable for first a couple of times. And like doing everything else, when you never drove a car and you start going the first drive, you're nervous. You're nervous. After 5 years, you're good. Well, hopefully it doesn't take for. I still don't like recording videos. I still don't like, but I do it because you have to.
Right.
And I think you and Chris are really fantastic with all your social media classes, just to push people a little bit more out of a comfort zone.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Well, I feel like, you're always going to be uncomfortable, but you have to get used to being uncomfortable. Right. So it's like you hop on, you just say, there's safety in numbers. So if like you're scared right now, do something like this, because if Irina is like, man, I don't know what I'm going to say next, then I feel that and I can chime in. And then when I want to take a break, she hops in. And so it's like that back and forth can help you to really build your confidence, and then maybe start on a platform where you don't have as many followers, like Instagram. Like if you do an Instagram live, you're lucky if you have 1 or 2 people watching. Just say and do whatever you want. Like it's perfect, right? Nobody's watching. So like, hey, this is Jeremiah. And so I'll test a lot of content related stuff on Instagram live because nobody's watching. It's so, and then I'll hop onto Facebook or YouTube, and then I'll try to schedule something ahead of time. So thanks, Becca. You took us down a path, but anytime I can talk about live video, it's what I love to do. So let's get back to the insurance. I keep hearing your jingle in my head. Liberty, 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 right? Liberty.
I'm going to sing for us.
My son loves that jingle. So we talked about like the group discount. We talked about making sure. So let's say I want to go back to like, okay, I'm going to buy this home. I'm a first time home buyer. Finished basement, right? Because you kind of touched on it as far as like water backup, sump pump, that kind of stuff. Would you recommend like there's finished basements? I'm gonna use air quotes, right? Where people say that it's finished and they like painted the walls and threw a carpet down and spray painted the ceiling black. Not really finished in my opinion, but if something happened with water, who cares? You replace the carpet, maybe a few $100, you call it a day. Then you have like the finished basement. It has like a full bath. It has its drywalled. You got the screen, you got TVs, you got, stereo equipment, that kind of stuff. That floods. now we're talking about a $10,000 or $15,000 job. Would you recommend in cases like that? Is there like additional coverage because it's better than average finished? Does that make
Well, I
sense?
always ask that question. So I always ask, do you have a basement? And doesn't matter if it's how it's finished. Is it finished, unfinished? Do you have a sand pump? And most of the answers is yes. And then, question is, do you want to protect if something happens? Some pump pipe broken downstairs. Some pump stop working. And if answer is yes, then we will talk about coverage, what you need to replace your basement to original condition. If it's $5,000, is it $10,000? With Liberty, it's a set amount of $10,000. There's a carrier what you actually get a higher amount of coverage. So once again, it's a conversation. And honestly, it's $30-$40 more in your policy, but God forbid something happen. If you have your expensive TV and you really care about it, it's good to be covered. If not, you love it, your TV, yes.
So, so I guess what I'm hearing you say is like having an honest and open conversation with your insurance person is the key to success, right? Like, don't hide anything. Make sure you know everything because you want to be sure that it's covered. What about the deal killers that we hear? Like, hey, there's a pit bull, or there's a trampoline, or there's a pond, because we were talking before we went on. Like, could a pond be an issue to an insurance company? Like, let's talk about that stuff. There's fact and there's fiction, right? Like, let's talk
There's
about
a fact and a fiction, and it's exactly that. Most of our dogs actually not a deal breaker with a lot of insurance companies. Unless dog has biting history, then it's become a problem to get insurance for home. When it's come to the pool, trampoline, and anything when it's come to the hazard, most of insurance, will, believe it or not, will cover it. That under their perils. It's not going to increase your policy. At that point, I would say just get a higher liability or get umbrella insurance just to help you if somebody break their neck and decided to sue you for having a trampoline on your property. I'm just making stuff up now.
I mean, it's funny, but not funny because it does happen. And I was thinking about this, like in our neighborhood, the kids are always playing everywhere, right? They go to, hey, they're at our house. Hey, they're at your house. Hey, they're, and I have like a little tree house behind my house. And I almost thought of like, hey, kids, have your parents sign this waiver of liability, in case you fall out the tree house or something. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that parent. But making sure, so let's talk about that liability side. Because we do have, I heard your fence is not typically covered. Is that true? We'll bring that up in a second. So what's it like? I don't want to say average, or like what's a standard liability that's covered? And if you feel that you need more because of these hazards, what would be good?
Well, liability. It's whatever liability you have on your homeowner's insurance, really. Normally it's 300,000. Some people have a $500,000. Some people have $1 million liability. It's based on your policy.
Do you think 300,000 doesn't seem like enough? If I'm going to sue you, I'm not going 300,000. I'm going to go anything with $1 million sounds good to me, right? I mean, realistically, in today's society, they're like, I'm going to get rich. I broke my leg in your front yard, right? So, like, would you recommend, like, is there a minimum 500? If I have like a pool and a trampoline and I have a lot of kids coming over all the time, would $1 million be better?
Well, honestly, just get umbrella insurance. Cover you in case of your order or home all together. God forbid something happen. You're not actually going to be sued for everything you own. Happened to me. A real life story. We had a house, and a couple of people decided to come and help us to split wood. One of a guy got injured doing that. We paid probably $50,000 for his medical bills because and after he recovered, he filed a lawsuit for $1 million. So if we had not had umbrella insurance, we probably lost all businesses, all our rental properties, everything.
Wow.
So you don't know.
Never know.
Yeah, you just don't know. You don't know if things will happen or not.
Right. And you're like, oh, no, these are my friends. It's crazy how that might turn as soon as somebody gets hurt and they see a payday. You're like, yo, man, I know we were friends, but $1 million is $1 million. But we have a question from Amber Palmerville. I think she's from Montana, out west. Amber's question is, I heard your fence is not typically covered. Is that true? Is that true? And whose fence is it? Like, Amber, maybe expand on that question a little bit. Do you mean if something happens, somebody falls on it, a tree falls on it, a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to see it?
So usually your dwelling and outside structures is covered. The fence is not outside of structures. And once again, it depends on the policy. Normally, you have a dwelling and other structure. So fence is just not part of other structure.
Okay, so if I buy a house and it's got a really kick-ass vinyl fence that's like 1,000 feet of fencing, linear feet, that would cost me a small fortune if I had to replace it. Can you get additional coverage on that? Like,
I'm sure there's a couple,
I feel like we're having so many storms and windstorms and hurricanes and all that. Like if a tree falls and ruins my fence, one side of it, I can make a claim, you think, or I have to make sure that that's covered?
That's a good question. I would say it would not be covered.
Okay.
I will have to double check on that. I never had that question before, but I live in the area without fence.
The insurance lady.
I know. I tried to do a video before. I walk out and I see whole entire deer population just sitting in my yard.
Yeah. So the so the fences. Okay, we'll talk about that. That's fine. What else can we talk about when it comes to the insurance? Not typically covered. Your fence, the tree. That's what I was going. I lost my train of thought for a second. See, look, you can lose your train of thought on live video, and it's okay.
Okay, well, how about I give you an idea what is hardest things to hard. It's not impossible, but it's harder to insure. Oil tank, especially in-ground oil tank. If you buy in a house, it probably will be, and all the houses have that. Above the ground is okay. In-ground oil tank is really hard to insure.
Oh, yeah. That's a real estate test question. We call them lusty, leaky underground storage tanks. It could be an issue. Yeah.
It definitely can be issue with insurance, but it's also can be definitely issue with
EPA
making a sale.
Yeah.
And we're talking here from a real estate perspective. Anything what is easier for you guys to make sure sale is go smoothly from beginning to the end. That's really important.
And I know we have people watching from all over the U.S. and there's so many different scenarios, but it's weird. Like New York State, we have property condition disclosure, right? A lot of other states do, but like half the state from like what we call upstate New York, almost 100% of the people do that property condition disclosure. And part of that is there an underground storage tank? Has it ever leaked? Now, on the bottom part of the state, like Westchester and South New York metro area, almost nobody does that. And they just give a $500 credit. So if something like that is on the property, it's still a latent defect that needs to be disclosed, right? It's just talking from a real estate standpoint. If you're the agent, we have some additional comments from Amber. Let me tell the Amber story here. Well, our tramp, and I'm guessing that means trampoline. Okay, not anything else. Blew our tramp blew our tramp onto our fence. So the wind blew our tramp onto our fence, and then it landed on our neighbor's house. We made a liability claim. for the neighbor's house, but they didn't cover our fence. Maybe we would have needed to do a different claim. The wind blew our tramp. Yeah. Okay. And I'll bring it up on here. That's complicated. Say
Yeah,
that.
that's complicated. What happens to me? But my trampoline actually ended up in the neighbor's pool. It was during a Sunday.
So can you anchor that? Because I just bought a property that has a trampoline on it. Can you anchor those bad boys down? I mean, this probably be the best because all the stories you hear is like the trampoline flew and it went.
You have to trust me or get rid of trampoline because big windy day, hurricane season, this thing is going to be fine. And that's why houses with trampoline, some insurance companies wouldn't insure because one, if somebody can fall down and get hurt and sue you. Two, one big windy day and it would be like Dorothy in Kansas.
We're not in Kansas anymore. So let's. There's. I think the one last thing I want to talk about in regards to like problem properties because I think this is where some agents can really miss the ball as far as a property that has had a lot of claims on it can be an issue, just like a driver who has had a lot of claims, right? Like that claim history, the clue report, or is that what you call it?
Okay, sure. It's a two-part question, and I will cover two. Usually, if you are so clue report, what is clue report? Insurance company will be run report like same like mortgage company run report on your financial stability. They're going to run report on that location, that house, just to see what is hazard is exposed to. But however, if you are first-time buyer or first-time buyer for that house, a lot of the claims from that house will not transfer to you in your insurance code. However, if you own houses before and you had a lot of claims, it still will follow you to the new purchase. Hope that makes sense.
Right, because and that's partly why they run the credit of the person too, right? Because studies have shown that if the credit is negative or lower than average, then they're more likely to make a claim because they probably don't have the money to make a repair, a small repair if needed, you know. So I hope that made sounded complicated, but I hope
your credit score pretty much affect everything these days. You know, your mortgage rates, your auto insurance, your home insurance. So yes, higher is your credit, is probably less premium you will be paying for your insurance.
Yeah. So if I have a property, because here's the, like let's say I just sold this property through like during the pandemic, actually, hallelujah. But it was that Queen Anne Victorian that I told you about. It was very much like the Money Pit, like the movie The Money Pit. Like everything that could go wrong with this property went wrong at different times. I moved out, we rented it, and then we had a tenant in there, and then he was gone, and the pipes burst, and it had hot water, baseboard heat. So that was a big issue to repair. And then we had some wind damage. It took off siding and roofing shingles. That was a few $1,000s. We had to make a claim. And then the tenants, like I had a detached, and this is where the last part I want you to cover here, a detached 4-car garage, okay, with like a second floor. It had a furnace in there. It had a ventilation system because the guy who owned it before me did like stonework, like granite and that kind of stuff. So long story short, the tenant's son and girlfriend were in the garage, and they, in the ventilation system, thought that looked like a fireplace for some reason and put a log in there, like, those logs you buy at the store, lit it like if they were going to have a nice little fire.
And ventilation system.
Yeah, and totally burned the thing almost to the ground. What I discovered, I had that property covered for replacement value. So let's say it was covered for, $270,000. they would only cover the structure because it wasn't attached, as a detached structure for 10% of that value, which wasn't enough for me to fix the garage. I had to come out of pocket to fix the garage. So let's talk about detached garages, pole barns, that kind of stuff. Because I think, so many of us, if you have a property with like 50 acres, you might have a barn, or you might have a pole barn, or you might have, all of these things. How can we be sure that those are covered?
So 10% of a value of insurance with other structures. It's not normal percentage, but any insurance company will pay for other structures other than your dwelling. However, if you have something special on your property, then for our garage, beautiful tree house, what you spend $50,000 on, and make it crown molding in it.
It's a hell of a tree.
Make a special mention to your agent, put it in your policy, make a note of the policy. There are garage, what it costs $50,000 to rebuild. Just make a just different provision to your policy, just to without you making any changes to your policy, and just actually putting that in the policy. Insurance policy wouldn't know. So you get that $20,000, 10% of a dwelling. If you think if it's worth more, then talk to your agent. They just make that changes in the policy, so it will be noted to your policy.
All right.
See, next time you just have to call me. Make sure you have a right insurance in place.
And here's the thing, because haste makes waste, right? I have my own property, but we have multiple rental properties, and sometimes there's things that you shouldn't rush through, because if something does happen, it can ruin you, right? It can ruin you financially. And putting each property in an LLC will be a different discussion for another day, as far as deferring liability when it comes to rental properties. But is there anything else you want to kind of add before we're going to wrap up, but we want to make sure that we put all of your ways for them to contact you in the comments, because she's building up her Instagram again
For a second time.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone need to connect with me, you can look it up. Irina at Liberty Mutual on Facebook, Irina Dupre on Instagram. All my contact information on my pages. And thank you so much for having me in the show.
Well, thank you. We appreciate you. This is Jeremiah's JMan Monero. Thank you for tuning in for 18 Friday. Next week, we are actually planning ahead. You would not believe that I'm planning ahead, right? But next Friday, we're going to be talking with an attorney about short sales and mortgage forbearance and all kinds of fun stuff like that, which might be on the horizon. So this is Jeremiah's JMan Monero with JMan Speaks. Thank you, Irina.
Oh, thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too. And if you're out there, make sure you're making a great day. This is Jeremiah's JMan Monero with JMan Speaks. See you.